Welcome back to another edition of the Prospect Profile, a mini-series we do here within the Kansas City Royals franchise, where we go over top prospects from AA Northwest Arkansas up to AAA Omaha. Last time we went over catcher/corner infield prospect Tommy O'Doul in AA, and now we're going to be staying in AA to go over third base prospect Frank Abreu. Abreu is a third baseman, but he can also play a little bit of first base as well. He is a right-handed bat, right-handed throw, obviously. He stands 6'2", 216 pounds. He is 20 years old, out of the Dominican Republic, and he was a fourth-round draft pick in 2019 by the Kansas City Royals. As far as Abreu's attributes go, he is currently sitting at a 72 overall and a D potential. The D potential is why you guys haven't seen a prospect profile on him earlier. You've probably seen him as I go through monthly recaps, or every time I show the third base section, you see him towards the top of the third baseman in my organization, but the D potential is why I don't consider him to be one of our more top-tier MLB-ready prospects. And it's for good reason, too, as you see his attributes on the screen, and he's just not getting better. Obviously, he has the potential to bump that potential from a D to a C, and that would definitely be beneficial for his career, but as it stands right now, I don't really feel comfortable having him at the major league level as a long-term solution at third base. Not only because I don't think he's very much ready at the defensive side of the ball, but also because I just don't think he's going to be very sustainable for very long. For example, he raked last year in AA, and he's also raking this year so far, and he still hasn't bumped that D up to a C. That's why he's in AA, even though his ratings and his attributes are so high, is because I want him to crush and move that potential up to a C, but he's just not doing it, and that's what's holding him back so far. But as he stands right now, he does have a good all-around bat with a 66 contact versus righties and a 70 versus lefties, as well as some pretty good pop to his bat as well. Could be a 20, 25, maybe even 30 home run hitter down the line. Probably 20, 25 is more realistic, though, with 50 and 52 power versus righties and then lefties. He's also got decent to good plate skills. He's got 65 vision with 55 discipline. Not the greatest, definitely not bad though either. I'll take that any day from any of my players. So as it stands right now, he could be a bat at the major league level, but once again, it's just how long is that sustainable with his D potential, because even though he rakes, all his attributes continue to digress. They're all just getting worse. As you can see on his attributes page, they're all just minus whatever number is on top of it, except for, I think, contact versus lefties. And then last year, he lost multiple attribute points as well in most of those attributes. One thing you don't have to worry about Frank Abreu with is his durability. He has no problem staying healthy, staying on the field. That is not something to worry about. He also has a good glove, but he's not the greatest with his reactions, and he definitely doesn't have an arm suited for third base. I would say he's pretty comparable to Pavin Smith in the field, where he's best suited to play first base. Obviously, Pavin Smith is best suited to play first base because he can't play third base because he's a lefty thrower, but with Frank Abreu, he's definitely comparable in the field to Pavin Smith, where he's got a good glove, 72 fielding, he's going to make some plays, he's going to be able to make some snags, but he doesn't have the greatest reactions with only a 58 reaction, which is definitely a thing that comes in handy to have when you're playing the hot corner. He also does not have the prototypical arm you would want from a third baseman, which is 58 arm strength and 45 arm accuracy. And I know you're probably thinking, Jersey, you guys don't really have the greatest defensive third baseman right now with Matt Carpenter or even Gunnar Height or any of these other guys you've mentioned that you have in your organization. And you're right, but I would still like to have a guy who would have a prototypical arm and good fielding and good reaction, and he's just not that. And one thing that does play into Abreu's hand is that third base is an area of uncertainty for us in Kansas City. Right now, first base, which is probably the one that Frank Abreu is most suited for, is not. It's probably the only infield position on the team that is set in stone at the moment. Obviously, shortstop could possibly be Escalona if he pans out, and that could be a set-in-stone position, and then it would just be second and third, but first base right now is probably the only one that's set in stone, while third base is definitely an area of uncertainty, which definitely plays into his hand. Don't really have anyone in the organization primed to take over, and that's also good for Abreu, because right now we pretty much only have Gunnar Height, who's 28, not the most highly touted prospect. He's just kind of like a stopgap guy who might possibly be a decent player. And then Miguel Andujar, who is not the youngest anymore. I think he's 26 or 27, and he just hasn't played well in the majors, or even in AAA, he hasn't really done much for us. But there's just not a lot of depth to our system at the third base position, but it could also be a position that is upgraded during free agency and the upcoming offseason. That is yet to come, though, because we do have to save money to re-sign Jorge Bonifacio, who is by far our best player, and I don't want to lose him to free agency when his contract is up, not after this season, but after next season. So with that being said, that's going to wrap things up here for this edition of the Prospect Profile of third base prospect Frank Abreu. I've been your host, Jerseyborn, and I'm saying goodbye.